Previously on Among the Hidden, Luke made his way into the Sports family's house and found out that Jen, the third child of the Sports family, has been living there and has quite a bit of freedom compared to what he's been used to. We followed him through her house as she told him about her security system and how she knows how to disarm it, and that he is something called a shadow child, and she seems to know other shadow children. We don't know how, but we might find out today. So let's see what happens today on Among the Hidden. First, she said defiantly, my parents had me on purpose, 13 years ago. Mom already had Bull and Braun from her first marriage. Your brothers? Luke asked. Yeah, Buellton and Brownlee. Really, but what kind of names are those for knuckleheads like them? Mom was going through some snobbish upper-class phase with husband number one. She's had more than one husband? Luke asked. He didn't know that was possible. Sure, Jen said. Dad, who's really my stepdad, is number 3. Luke frowned. Luke found that so confusing, but he kept his mouth shut. Anyhow, Jen said, Mom was dying to have a little girl, so when she and husband number 2 got together, she went and paid some doctor lots of money so she could get pregnant. What if you'd been a boy? Luke asked. Oh, they got it in the beginning of the gender selection experiments. Luke must have been giving Jen a particularly blank look because she explained it. That means they made sure I was a girl. Doctors can do that, but the government outlawed the procedure because they were afraid it'd throw off the population even more out of whack. I'm sure my parents paid a lot for it. Were your mom and dad trying for a girl? Luke thought about it. He remembered Mother saying she'd wanted 4 boys, but would she have wanted a girl even more? Someone like Mother? He wouldn't really picture a girl in his house. They weren't trying for anything, he said. I was a surprise. Luck. Jen nodded. I didn't think they paid for you, she said. Then she put her hand over her mouth. Oh, that sounded really terrible, didn't it? I didn't mean anything by it. It's just you're the first person I met who wasn't a baron. How do you know I'm not? Luke asked stiffly. Well, Jen waved her hands up and down in a way that made Luke even more aware of his contrast with his ragged flannel shirt and patched jeans and Jen's perfect house. Look, don't be mad. It doesn't matter. Or maybe it does, but I think it's cool that you're not a baron. You can help me even more. Help? Luke asked. With the rally, Jen said. She bit her lip. Should I... There's no way you could be an infiltrator, is there? Can I trust you? Of course you can, Luke said. He felt insulted again. Jen leaned her head back and stared at the ceiling as if an answer were written there. Then she looked back at Luke. I'm sorry, I'm botching this. I'm not used to really talking, just on the net. Look, I trust you, but I'm not the only one involved, so let's wait, okay? Okay, Luke said. But he couldn't help sounding injured. Jen leaned over and gave his shoulder a quick shake. Oh, don't say it like that. Say, okay, Jen, I respect your judgment. Or, okay, Jen, whatever you think is best. She giggled. That's what Dad tells me when I should say. That's what Dad tells me I should say when I disagree with him. Can you believe it? Lawyers. Luke was glad the subject had changed. Your dad's a lawyer? He asked. Jen rolled her eyes. Yeah, all Mom's husbands have been. Strange taste, huh? Number 1 was an environmental lawyer, of all things. Number 2 was corporate, but that's how they had enough money to get me. And number 3, Dad, is with the government. High up, I might add. But if you're illegal... Luke hadn't thought he could get any more confused. Jen laughed. Haven't you learned? Government leaders are the worst ones for breaking laws. How do you think we got this house? How do you think I got internet access? How do you think we live? I don't know, Luke said, fully honest. I don't think I know much of anything. Jen patted his head as if he were a little kid or a dog. That's okay, she said. You'll learn. It wasn't long after that Luke said he had to leave because he was afraid that Dad or Matthew or Mark might come in for lunch a little early. He dreaded the trip back. Jen walked him to the door, chattering the whole way. "I'll fix the screen and deal with the security system, so no one will ever know you were here," she said. "And, oh no." Luke followed her gaze. She was staring at 3 pinpoints of blood on the carpet. "Oh, I'm sorry," Luke said. "That must have been from when I scraped my hand. I'll clean it up. There's still time." Secretly, he was glad for the delay. No, Jen said impatiently. "I don't care about the carpet. It's just that Mom and Dad'll know, and when they see I don't have any cuts..." And then, before Luke even knew what she was doing, she thrust her hand towards the torn part of the screen, and the jagged edge didn't cut immediately. So she held the screen with her right hand and raked it across her left. And when Jen pulled her hand back, Luke saw a gash even deeper than his. Jen squeezed out a few blood drops onto the carpet and let them fall. "There," she said. Stunned, Luke backed out the door. "Come back soon, farmer boy," Jen said. Luke turned and ran blindly, not even slowing down to creep alongside the barn. He went straight to the back door of the house, yanked it open, and let it bang shut behind him. Now, sitting at supper, he felt his heart pounding again, as he thought of how dangerous that had been. Why hadn't he looked first? Why hadn't he crawled? He poked his fork into his potatoes, now gone cold and congealed. He watched Mother gathering up dirty dishes, while Dad, Matthew, and Mark leaned back in their chairs, talking of grain yields. Jen had scared him. That was why. Seeing her cut her hand had terrified him. How could she do something like that for him when they just met?